there are just two twins, and it's said they have simplified their style. Alana Curry and Tom Bailey are the Thompson twins, and good morning to both of you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
First of all, let me ask you what happened to the third twin, Joe Leeway.
Joe's living in LA. He got married and settled down and decided to stay in one place to work rather than chase around the world, you know, with a couple of crazies like us.
But not a case of a rift and you still check on it.
We're still really, really good friends,
fine.
yeah.
What is the stuff about simplified your style? Is that true?
Well, I guess we have. I mean, we felt we were getting, not just in records and production, but also stage shows and everything, we were getting too big. Lights were beginning to overtake the music and everything else. So we've sort of cut down in all sorts of areas. And with the new album, it took us 4 weeks to record as opposed to 8 months on the last one.
Did you come to that conclusion on your own, or did somebody really take you aside and say, hey, look, you guys sound pretty good, but you got all this clutter going on?
No, very much our own thing. We sat down and listened to the albums we'd done and sort of listened to music before we set about doing this. Sort of reevaluated what was
As a performer, you sometimes realise as well that you're on a stage and the essential job is to communicate. And if you're competing with all this technology, then it becomes more difficult than it should be, you know? And there are times when, say, you play in a smaller place rather than a bigger and you can't fit all your stage show in, suddenly you think, this is great. You know,
is the essential job to communicate or to entertain?
To communicate,
communicate and entertain, but to communicate, definitely.
The reason I ask that is because in an era when almost everybody is just purely commercial, I mean, you're interested in conveying a message with your music, yes?
Well, I don't know what it is. There's something magic about playing live, but the first gig we did of this tour was in a little pub in Ireland, and there were 70 kids, and we did it on a stage that was sort of 6 by 6, and it was great. We had no lights. We had one roadie sort of switching a light bulb on and off. And the whole thing was just wonderful. It was a really great feeling. And that's what it's about. So we tried to translate that into bigger places when we played America.
When you put a message in the songs, are you conscious of not being preachy? I mean, do you defeat the purpose if it comes off as a preacher man?
Hey, if you believe what you're talking about, then you don't feel like you're preaching too much, you know. It's, I think if someone says, look, there's a point here which you've got to make, so try and put it across, and it feels like a job, then you're preaching, yeah. But if you actually really believe it, and it helps, of course, if you're talking about a real experience. If it happened to you, and you turn the story for real.
That gives me a good introduction to the clip we've got, because it comes from a single on the album, The Long Goodbye. And let's roll it in right here, Guy. That song has a strong personal message for you, doesn't it?
Yeah, well, it was a song that I wrote after my mother died, and also Tom and I were going to have a child last year, and I lost the baby at 5 months. So I wrote that song as, it was really just my parting gift to those two people. It was a grieving song, you know, sat around all summer digging my garden, crying, and wrote that song for them.
Do you still have a hard time hearing it?
I don't like playing it at all. I don't like playing it. Some nights it's really special, and some nights it just makes me feel, just miss them incredibly, particularly my mum.
You two were having a baby together.
Yeah.
You have been together for a while, and yet for a long time you denied that you were ever thus. Why?
Really because it wasn't important. We didn't feel it was anybody's business, and when we were starting off as a band, we wanted to make our music. We wanted people to listen to our music and not sort of be taken over by the gossip side of it. Also, Joe was in the band, so we didn't want it to look like sort of us two and Joe. It was very much a three-piece band.
So it was more a business decision?
No, it was also sort of not wanting people to know. You didn't want to be in the gossip columns all the time and things like that. You know, It's something, when you have things that are very special to you, you don't want the world to know about them.
The two of you and Joe are basically a long way from where you started. I mean, when you were all squatting together.
Yeah,
right?
New York City.
Are you at all still surprised by how far you've come?
Yeah, and it never ceases to amaze me, actually, because it doesn't get any more simple. I don't understand this more than I did 10 years ago. You know, there's always a mystery involved of why this fascination for communication takes place. And I hope it always stays that way, because I think that's what makes me wake up in the morning and want to make music. You know, if it becomes, like, really obvious and just a sort of game that you play, then what's the point in continuing? So I hope it lasts forever. You know? Although I'm going to retire 75, really.
My goodness. On that note, I'll say thanks and wish you well. Tom and Alana, thank you very much.
Our
Good luck to
pleasure.
both of you. 43 past the hour. We're gonna